promised, it was absolutely delicious. Fish cooked in creamy sauces, roasted meats and stews, pies with butter pastry, and exotic vegetables cooked with herbs and spices. There was only one thing missing from the table. There was nothing to drink. "Your Majesty," whispered the king's senior advisor, "if I may be so bold as to point out that the servants have forgotten to bring the wine." "You have not forgotten," replied the king loudly, so that he could be heard by all the table. "I instructed them not to. We are not having wine tonight." The king's men looked at one another. What was His Majesty thinking? How could they eat all of this food without drinking anything? "Perhaps, Your Majesty," suggested the second most senior advisor, "we would be able to enjoy our food better if someone fetched us a jug of water. Our throats are very dry." "Nonsense," snapped the king. "You do not need water to drink. Your feet are in bowls of it." He looked around the table and smiled. "You were all laughed behind my back when I suggested the reeds in the swamp needed rain. You were sure that if anything stood in water, it didn't need water to drink. Now you can see for yourselves if you are right or not." His advisors looked at each other in surprise. It seemed that the king was not as foolish as they thought. In fact, he was really quite clever. All right, so you're drawing. Good readers visualize what's happening in the story, and you're drawing something that you visualized happening in the story. So I'm going to read the story one more time. As I read, I want you to keep drawing something that happened in the story, because we know good readers are visualizing and drawing what happens in the story. Yep, you're drawing something that happened in the story, because good readers visualize what happens in the story. Lainey, I see Lainey, your hand raised. Huh? Advisors are people who give advice, so people who help the king think of things and help the king solve problems. So his advisors are people who work with the king. So I'm going to read it one more time and keep drawing, just like I see Karsten drawing, Skylar's drawing, Montana's drawing. They're visualizing what's happening in the story. A king was strolling by the Danube River with his advisors. "Look at these poor reeds," he said. "They need rain badly. The weather's been dry for weeks." The advisors snickered behind the king's back. Imagine thinking that reeds in a swamp needed rain. They have their roots in water all the time. The king was really foolish sometimes. That night, the king invited his advisors to a banquet in the ceremonial hall. "Don't ruin your appetite by snacking beforehand," he said. "Cook is preparing lots of delicious dishes for us." Even before the dinner gong rang that evening, the king's men had gathered outside the dining hall. The smells from the kitchen were making their mouths water. What delicious treats had the cooks dreamed up for them? The servants showed each man to his place around the grand table. "You each have a bowl of perfumed water under your chair," the head butler announced. "Please cool your feet in it." Smirking once again, the king's advisors took off their shoes and put their feet in the bowls. Fancy thinking they needed to keep their feet cool while they ate. But they would humor the foolish king. It was worth it just to have such a delicious feast. The king took his place at the head of the table, and the servants brought in the food. As the king had promised, it was absolutely delicious. Fish cooked in creamy sauces, roasted meats and stews, pies with butter pastry, and exotic vegetables cooked with herbs and spices. There was only one thing missing from the table. There was nothing to drink. "Your Majesty," whispered the king's senior-most advisor, "if I may be so bold as to point out, the servants have forgotten the wine." "They have not forgotten," the king replied, so loudly that he could be sure all around it heard. "I instructed them not to. We are not having wine tonight." The king's men looked at each other. What was His Majesty thinking? How could they eat all of this food without drinking anything? Perhaps, Your Majesty, suggested the second most senior advisor, we would be better able to enjoy our food if someone fetched us a jug of water. Our throats are very dry. Nonsense, snapped the king. You do not need water to drink. Your feet are in bowls full of it. Selena Carson? He looked around the table and smiled. You all laughed behind my back when I suggested that the reeds in the swamp needed rain. You were sure that anything that stood in water didn't need anything to drink. Now you can see for yourselves whether you were right or not. His advisors looked at one another in surprise. It seemed the king was not as foolish as they thought. In fact, he was really quite clever. So finish whatever you're working on right now. You have about 30 seconds to finish up your drawing. It doesn't have to be perfect. We're just working on visualizing because we know good readers, as they read, they visualize what's happening in the story. That means they see what's happening in their mind. So Tyrone's visualizing the story, he's drawing it out. It doesn't have to be perfect. Don't worry too much about it. Pencils back in your caddy. Put your markers back in your caddy if you have them out. The only thing you should have out on your desk is what you visualize, which is also your reading log that you're taking home this weekend. So that should be in front of you. Go ahead and put your pencils away.
Finished.
Do we need to say we're finished? How will I know you're finished? I can tell Kale's finished because he's sitting in the waiting position. I can tell Montana's finished. All right, let's see those pencils away, and let's see everyone as ready as Kale, Akivia. Go ahead and put pencils away. I see the whole purple table. The West region has the pencils away. The blue region has their pencils away. Done, Skylar, Lainey, Piper, let's put those pencils away. Put your eyes up here so I know you're ready to share before we go to the library. We have a lot to do.
Okay.
And I want a couple student volunteers to share what they visualized as we were reading. Kale, will you share your picture? What did you visualize while you were listening to the story? Good readers visualize.
Like the story.
Like the story? Will you show us your picture?
I couldn't because I didn't get to finish.
That's okay. We aren't too much worried about the picture. We're worried about what we're visualizing. Will you show us what you draw here? So you were drawing, it looks like there's a king. What else is there in your picture?
Look, clear food, but no drinks or anything.
Okay, so you drew a table with some food but no drinks? Let's see. That's something that happened in the story. Skylar, what did you draw for yours?
I drew a guy on the table and one with his feet in the bucket.
Okay, so Skylar drew someone with their feet in the bucket of water. So as I was reading that, you were able to picture it in your mind. Who else? Melanice, what did you draw? A painting of a king. Okay, cool. So, king. Lainey, what did you draw for yours?
I drew like maybe walking along that beach side or something.
Uh-huh. Along the swamp, and what did you see there?
It was all dry.
It was all dry. What did you draw, Keegan?
It wasn't dry.
Okay, so I see some people sitting at a table. What else is in that year's drawing? Just buckets, so you're picturing the feet. So you guys were able to hear that, and you were able to visualize it. One more, Nellie.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so we have more people at a table, and then some people on a walk. Is that the reeds? Great. So you were able to picture the dry reeds in the swamp and the people at the table.
That's what I was thinking.
Okay, the only thing you should have out on your desk right now is your reading log, which has your visualizing on the back of it. We know visualizing helps us become better readers. So I want you to make sure you're visualizing when you're reading at home in your reading log. So pick up your reading log, hold it up. I'm going to call your tables to line up and we're going to go to the library. As we walk out of the room, you're going to put your reading logs in your
Lockers.
Oh,
Mailboxes.
mailboxes. Do you want to run up here and put them in right away?
No.
Oh, you want to go as you're passing out of the room, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, in our new line order, we have the Southeast region bring their reading logs and themselves to their new line order. I saw Sam pushing you in a chair, Kale's pushing you in his chair. They're lining up on their new line. Sam's standing like a fifth grader. She sounds like a fifth grader. The West region, go ahead and take your reading logs and line up on your new tiles. So where should we be? The Southwest region, go ahead and bring your reading logs, push your chairs in, and line up in a fifth grade line on your tiles. The Midwest region, push in your chairs, take your reading logs, and line up on the tiles. The new Midwest region. Skylar, you're in the Northeast region. Sit down and remember to bring your reading logs and line. Skylar, we're waiting till we... Alright, I can tell the Northeast region is ready. Northeast region, pick up your reading logs, push in your chairs, and line up on your tile. As we pass, we're putting our reading logs into our mailboxes. Skylar, go ahead and sit down and try that again. Alright, Skylar standing in a fifth grade line. Wanya standing in a fifth grade line. As we pass the mailboxes, what will you put in them? Your reading log. Okay, sure. As we pass the lights, go ahead and turn them off.
Put a picture on it. Do you want to do this? It's a cane. Get out here. And then there's a guy that says, you're a man.
So we're going to be painting our ceiling tiles, so
Oh, okay.
we did most of our